Hello everyone, welcome to this KES COVID Challenge workshop. Here we are going to present the paper A Tale of Two Zones, Pandemic ERT Evaluation. I am Inamul Haq, I am from University of Waterloo, and I also have co-authors Shahana, Tarnima, Iqbal, and Noor. COVID-19, we know that it has started from Wuhan, China in 2019, but actually in 11th March 2020, who declared it as pandemic. And since then, many classes around the world, they moved their the in-person classes into the online version. So this emergency remote teaching or ERT is meant to be a temporary shift from the normal modes of teaching. It happens when teaching becomes remote or distant. This takes what would have otherwise been face-to-face or hybrid teaching and transforms it to become digital education. So as you have seen, the authors, we are from different parts of the world, and we have observed that the attitude towards ERT from students and teachers' perspective were not the same. So we thought about this experiment. In this research, we tried to compare this ERT between this developing zone and developed zone. So for the developed zone, we mostly the students or teachers, they are mostly from Canada or USA, and for developing zone, most of them are from Bangladesh or surrounding countries. The research question we try to solve or try to answer here are: one, what are the identified factors in ERT and how they affect learning in developed and developing countries? Then we tried to evaluate the ERT effort and compare in between these two zones. And finally, we figured out the gaps from technical perspective and a suggestion how those can be mitigated. To evaluate the overall CIPP, overall ERT program, we used well-known CIPP evaluation model, which was developed by Daniel Staffelbeam and his colleagues in 1960s. CIPP actually stands for Context, Input, Process, and Product, where context is basically connected with the goals. Input is about the plans, process is about the actions, and the product is the finally the outcome. Um, to answer about the questions like what should we do, these will answer about the context. What should How should we do it? They will give us indication about the input, and are we doing as planned? So that will help us to evaluate the process, and finally whether the program is working well or not, that will tell us about the product. We also did some background literature review, and there are some works which have been done to compare the ERT with the regular online teaching methods, also with the perception on the load, IT infrastructure, dropout in a school. Some of qualitative work also done on the technology, finance, and mental support. In Peking University, they have done they figured out some strategies and proposed 5 principles for implementation of the ERT. And then other two works are about ERT design evaluation mechanism and also about guidelines for schools to implement the ERT effectively. So our methods, we also, as you see, we also did some literature study and try to figure out what they have already covered and what can we also add to it. So from our experience, also the gap identification, and then we designed our questionnaires in a way so that it can help us to evaluate the CIPP model. Our research was both quantitative and qualitative. We also are proposing a conceptual framework and a structural equation model, and finally the comparative study between these two zones. So let's see some of the outcomes of this research. So from students' data analysis, you can see that from if we look at a very high level, that the satisfaction level for the in class and also in the online interactiveness. So if you see the red here, red is about the online, and the blue is about in classes. So they are more satisfied in students are mostly satisfied in in-person classes compared to the online classes, their satisfaction level. And we also can see that those students, for example, who did the online classes before or who did not do it, like yes and no. So they were missing in when it moved to ERT. These students who did not do any online classes before, they missed really big uh, chunk here. You can see that they were not that much satisfied. So we also figured out like 11 common problems like time management, special needs, office time productivity, motivational support, the group activities among the students, lack of devices, internet speed, connectivity, work-life balance, financial constraint or distractions. And we gave the students to prioritize them, that which one they think is the most important problem they are facing, and rank them. So developed countries, here you can see the red ones and say green ones are for developing zones. So it is clear that most of the prioritized problems for developing countries were here: internet speed and internet connectivity. These are the major problems the students from developing zones faced. And from developed countries, their prioritization on distractions and also office time productivity or motivational support. These are the things they focused mostly, and gave us as prioritized problems. From factor comparisons, like whether they have done online classes or not, they like asynchronous mode, they miss face to face, or whether they dropped courses or not. So here you can see the pattern is almost the same for both developed and developing countries students or and faculty members. So students here are the blue ones and the orange ones are the faculty members. As you can see that yes, their pattern almost look the same in both the zones. About the course and term-wise loads, yes, it is also facing almost the same pattern. But as you can see, the faculty members, the blue ones, they say that their load was more uh, compared to the normal time before, and both even developing and developed countries they said the most. And I think developed in the developed countries the professors faced more pressure to comply with their plans, so that's why they're also saying that their course load term load was higher um, others. Students' performance here also faculty members they mostly believe that their results are almost the same, but it is little bit inclined towards the ORS. And faculty members they feel that students are not performing as before, whereas students they seems like they are almost aligned with their professors. Instead, in developed countries, they don't feel like that. So the conceptual model we try to develop here, which is we pointed out all the problems and workload and everything into a stress, which is the latent variable, and student type they were based on their zones where they are, whether they have previous experience or not, their likeliness, their interaction. So those are student type, and the impacts are like whether they dropped the courses, their performance or satisfaction. So we thought about whether these three have any interconnection with them or not. So this is still work in progress, but our initial results showed that yes, rather than the stress, those missing F2F, this is very high, but rather than the stress, the type of the students have more impact on the impact, like their the students, where are they from, whether they have experience or not, or their likeliness, those impacted their performance satisfaction, or whether they dropped the courses or not. And this is the evaluation comparison. As we can see that from context, which is the plans, developed the blue ones and orange one is the developing countries. So Both in the context and process and following them, developed countries were rigorous and they followed the plan. Input wise, yes, the developing countries they tried to cope up as fast as possible when the time was there. And product wise, at the end, though it shows that developed countries did good, but it was very close. So from a qualitative perspective, when we talk to the students and professors, they showed one thing in common from a student's perspective that they want the recording lectures in both zones. In developing countries, as we have seen that they were not well prepared, so their materials they also found that were not well prepared, and we know that they had net connection problem. In developed zones, they want the improvement on online collaboration. You know, they already showed that they are distracted. Their mental satisfaction was more important. So they also talked about the workload, um, and if they had labs, they needed different kind of at innovative tools. And professors or teachers, they were also aligned with that. In developing zones, they talked about awareness training. Yes, they missed that. They needed better UI for interaction, better assessment tools. Same goes with the developed. They also needed awareness and training and advanced technology. And of course, recording of the key ideas. So this is all from our end. Thank you very much. Probably we'll go for the questions now.